now, as we talk about another very important subject matter, which is that of immigration, we are fortunate to have with us this morning the CEO at the American Business Immigration Coalition, none other than Rebecca Shih. Good morning, Rebecca, and welcome to Choose Views. How are you?
Hi there.
Hey, how are you this morning?
Good morning. Very good. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Excellent. All right. So one of the things that this is probably the biggest, certainly one of the top two conversations right now, and that's this conversation around deportation, specifically and more broadly immigration. And you run one of the most important organizations in the country right now, that being the American Business Immigration Coalition. Can you take a couple of minutes and tell us about the organization, how it was crafted and created, and what some of the objectives are?
Sure. So the American Business Immigration Coalition, we are a bipartisan group of 1,700 employers and CEOs from around the country, representing agriculture, manufacturing, healthcare, technology, and our purpose is to make sure that we finally fix our broken immigration system that's been outdated, for the last 40 years. So we think this is a great opportunity this year to finally get to some bipartisan solutions that can both secure the border and also secure America's workforce.
So right now, one of the biggest pushes for deportation is taking place in some of America's largest cities like Chicago and New York and Boston, most recently in terms of where Tom Homan has decided to direct his ire. Let's talk about why that is happening in your observation and experience, why that's happening in these big metropolitan areas.
Well, first, the president won last November overwhelmingly on the issue of immigration and border security. And so the president and his administration are taking seriously in terms of enforcing the law. But like the border czar Tom Homan has said, look, they are focused, and we hope they continue to focus on violent criminals, people who are a danger, cartels to our communities. Nobody wants these people in our communities. And so, but as well, we know the incredible contribution that immigrants make to our healthcare, manufacturing, hospitality, agriculture, and we won't have food on the table if it were for our hardworking immigrant farm workers. And so we believe there's an opportunity to get both done, to get legal pathways for our hardworking, law-abiding immigrants, as well as securing the border.
So to that point about the contributions, right now, as it relates to the food chain in America, we know for a fact that without the contributions of immigrants, particularly in this sort of farm food area or chain, you're right. But talk a little bit more about the numbers. We take away X number of people that are documented or undocumented, but not lawbreakers. Because I think that's where we get confused, is lawbreakers, undocumented, document. At the end of the day, it seems as though that the administration is taking a broad brush stroke rather than really going after the folks that have been causing any of the trouble. And that, from a food chain standpoint, is problematic to our economy. Talk about that if you can.
Yeah, 100%. Look, our agriculture industry is a $3.5 trillion industry. 72% of the farm workforce are foreign-born, are immigrants who are day in, day out picking our tomatoes, lettuce, milking cows at 3 a.m. And cows need to be milked 3 to 5 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so that's who's bringing food on our table at an affordable and quality price. So, we have a choice here. We either import our labor or we import our food. And I don't think we want to do that, because food security is national security. We want to make sure that our food is domestically grown, controlled, vetted, and as well as affordable. And so if, to your point, we remove a significant portion of our agricultural labor workforce, our hardworking farmers, I mean, do you want to pay $30 per head of lettuce at the grocery store? Or $20 carton of milk. I don't think any of us want to do that.
Well, and I think right now many of the people that are whether this is food security, national security are not partisan issues. I have a show on a progressive radio station, and so I unapologetically lean in the progressive direction. However, this is not an issue that is a solely progressive issue. This is an American issue. This is an issue that, if improperly managed, could destroy an important part of a segment of our economy, which would then have a domino effect on other parts of our economy. In other words, if people can't pay for food because of the fact that we mismanaged not just immigration, but the people who are managing our food systems, that will have a destructive impact on the economy. And that's the other side of this conversation around immigration that people aren't really having, that are saying, let's deport everybody. It's insane to go down that path.
100%. I mean, if you look at, in addition to our food supply chain, if you look at housing, construction, healthcare, I mean, these are sectors that are already experiencing a deep labor shortage. And so if you remove, construction and housing, 30 to 40% of the current workforce are immigrants who are working, productive. Healthcare, we have 25 to 40% from elderly care assistance workers to our physicians and nurses are immigrants, are foreign-born. And so if you remove this population, that drives up prices for everyday Americans. Everybody has parents, or you're going to age yourself. And so, who's going to take care of you? Who's going to, pay for, $18,000 more a year for elderly care? Or, we know we're already having a housing crisis in terms of, rents and mortgages. So both the supply is going to go down and the prices are going to go up. So, this, to your point, like, this economy is incredibly integrated, and immigrants are integrated into our workforce. And, we have 1.7 million open jobs currently. And so, removing people who are working, law-abiding, and productive in any of these sectors will be disruptive, not just to immigrants, right, but to everyday Americans.
And that goes back to something I wanted to ask you. I didn't realize the breadth of your coalition being 1,700 members. That's a combination of CEOs, current active CEOs, retired. I presume some retired folks that are also part of the organization. But talk about how you've been able to pull them together, because they come from different backgrounds and different mindsets and experiences. How you've been able to kind of get all that brain trust to move in a common direction to help solve, frankly, probably one or two largest issues in the country.
Well, employers, just like everyday Americans, are just sick and tired and frustrated by our broken immigration system. I mean, I think this was clearly demonstrated last November, and, with the reelection of President Trump. Voters sent a clear message that, look, we have to fix this system. We need a secure and orderly and safe border, and we need to figure out how we update this immigration system so that it reflects a 2025 economy rather than a 1986 economy. And it's not working, and employers as well as everyday Americans are demanding solutions.
So right now, what I will question is the voting was in part due to that, in terms of immigration, and large numbers of people voted in that way, or said that that was their driving force. However, it's not. I don't see, other than deportation and deporting people, as any part of the current administration's plan. I don't see anything that's structurally going to. It's sort of like one campaign promise to deport people is not fixing the issue, which by deporting people would deplete the folks that need to be there to do the work. And so there's a little bit of bait and switch that's clearly taken place and frustrated many Americans. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I think the Americans gave a clear distinction. So the securing the border, yes. Removing violent, dangerous people from their communities and neighborhoods, yes. But for people who are here working, law-abiding, which we know are the majority of immigrants, that have their heads down, many of them working 2 to 3 jobs. The majority of the 11 million have been here for at least 15 years. And so for those people, exit polls and polling, including last week's Ipsos poll, with over 2,600 American voters show that, hey, if you've been here for 10, 15 years, working, paying taxes, let's give you a legal pathway. So I think Americans are very smart. They can make the distinction, and it's time for Congress and the administration to do as well. And, and we believe there is a great opportunity because the president did run on both immigration as well as bring down the costs, so inflation. And both are intimately connected.
Without a doubt. However, he had an opportunity to stay out of the conversation that was a bill that Congress, both chambers of Congress, were ready to push forward for in the late summer, and he blocked it, which actually would have impacted the border security issue. That's a fact. And because of that, it frankly delayed what would have been beneficial to the conversation about illegal folks, quote, being here. And that's where I say that there is the bait and switch, because he got in the middle of that conversation, which was highly identified as problematic. And then we still haven't seen that, other than just deporting people, some of which are legally or should be here. They're undocumented, but they're not criminals. There's a little bit of hypocrisy there. I mean, you can't get away from that, Rebecca. That's a fact.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. Senator Langford from Red, Oklahoma was the one that championed the border security bill with a blessing from then Leader McConnell, support from the caucus to negotiate with Democrats, and with Schumer's full support. So and then President Trump weighed in, and the whole thing tanked, right? So you're 100% correct about the facts and history. And I mean, and that's been the theme of immigration reform over the last 40 years. And for both sides, right? The Democrats have had trifectas as well, and have said and messaged well on this issue, the Dreamers, path to citizenship, and, when, things get down to the wire, right, it fails. So I think that has culminated in the anger among Americans and businesses, small businesses in particular, and why we saw this election last November. And so all to say is we're here. The system is deeply broken. People are angry. And a enforcement-only approach, a mass deportation-only approach is going to drive up prices and, potentially even drop the stock market by 4 to 6%, and as well as the GDP. And so, we got to get to a solution. We can't get to a place where we're massively removing productive, law-abiding people and just wait for the prices to hit everybody, every American in their pocketbooks. So that's why, at the end of March, our employers, our members are going to be in Washington, D.C. We're going to talk to both sides of the aisle. We're going to talk to, President Trump and the administration and say, hey, let's get to a deal. There is a space for both securing our border and securing our workforce.
Yeah, I think that's got to be the effort, is it to understand that American citizens understand that if you recklessly just start to take people out of the country that are integral to this part of our economy, that there's going to be 3 legs of the stool that are going to be greatly depleted and impacted. In our market, our financial markets are going to be one of them. Our employment markets are going to be 2. And then just the safety that was the attempt isn't going to be there. So I applaud you, Rebecca. I know you're in a unique position. And as CEO of the American Business Immigration Coalition, there's a lot of work that you guys have in front of you. But I appreciate the work that you're doing and coming on our show this morning. How can folks find you? How can folks plug into the work that you're doing?
Yeah, check out our website at abic.us. That's abic.us. You can find fact sheets, latest news, sign up for our newsletter, and ways to get involved. We love to invite you and engage you because this is something that impacts all of us. Even you don't have to be an immigrant, but if you eat food, you get health care. You live in a house. Right, it's incredibly integrated, and we love to have you.
Absolutely. Rebecca, thanks for being with us this morning, and thanks for the hard work. We look forward to having you back as we keep this conversation going forward. Thanks, Rebecca, for being with us.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Richard.
All right. Have a great day.